Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to episode 120 of The Reformed Gamers, the show all about theology, video games, sitting down around a table and discussing all the craziness that happened at E3. I'm your host that would do a better job at hosting EA's conference than EA would, Logan.
And I am his E3 pumped host, Micah.
And I am his Wah Adam host, Skinner.
What?
You got Wario, Waluigi, I'm Wah Adam.
Oh, snap, dude. Okay, I didn't catch that. Nice. Oh, that's funny.
At the
He
beer.
is invited to Super Smash.
Anyway, dear listeners, so kind of what we're doing this episode here is, as you may have noticed, we're bringing on some of our patrons to discuss E3, everything E3, the things that went on at E3 to get you caught up in case you missed any of the conferences, kind of give our thoughts on some things. Unfortunately, Adam is at camp this week, so he's not able to make it for recording, but thankfully we have our patrons here that can join us on the show. And so, one of the things, or a couple things we got to take care of before we get into the show, a little bit of housekeeping, is because we're going through pretty much every single conference of E3 that was streamed, we're going to skip the what you have been playing and what you've been reading sections for this episode. Just this episode, they'll come back next episode. But we just want to get that out there in case, we just jump into the show and people are like, wait a minute, what, got to give you some heads up. We're also, a few updates on our, TRG Twitch and YouTube channel, for the foreseeable future, or at least the time being. We're going to put a pause on the Twitch account. We won't be streaming, anymore just because my Friday mornings are getting really busy and I'm not able to really dedicate the time to that. And then as far as our YouTube, that means that our previews, let's plays, first hours, those are going on pause as well. So we'll still upload the episodes to YouTube. We just won't have any actual gaming content for a while, at least until things slow down here, ministry side of things. But just want to give you guys those updates there, so that way you're not just checking YouTube and wondering what's going on. At least now you know. But anyway, so guys, E3, let's just dive right into it. E3 happened this past week, or I guess a week ago as of when this episode releases. So let's take some time to kind of talk about each one kind of step by step. Maybe discuss a couple big reveals and what our biggest takeaway was for some of the conferences. And so let's just start off with the Microsoft conference, which ironically enough is brought to you by David Skinner here on the show.
Yeah.
Now, David, real quick, are you an Xbox guy, or is this just kind of ironic?
It's super ironic because I'm actually more of a Sony pony.
Yes.
Props to my PS3 and my Vita.
Yes.
Or for my few friends out there in the PCMR, we know who we are. And we love those types as well, because sometimes a mouse and keyboard is just better. I
can actually agree with that. For like shooters and stuff, it's way better on there. I wish I could play Fortnite on my computer. But anyway. So cool. So let's talk about Microsoft. Their conference ran for about 2 hours or so, and they revealed a lot of things, really. There was a lot of stuff at their conference. Probably one of their biggest things, that they announced was their acquisition of 4 independent studios and them starting up one. The different studios you have are Undead Labs, who made the State of Decay games. You have Playground Games, who was already working on their Forza Horizon games. You have Compulsion, who's working on this upcoming title called We Happy Few. Maybe some of you have seen it or played it. And Ninja Theory, the studio behind Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, a game that I raved about on the show a couple episodes ago. And then their new studio they started up is called The Initiative, which is led by former Crystal Dynamics head Daryl Gallagher, who was actually part of the Tomb Raider reboot when that was going on. Now, real quick, guys, because we talked about this in our State of Xbox episode. We talked about the lack of exclusives, so to speak, on Xbox. So, David, let's get you, man, since you're our resident Xbox person here. That's what we're going to call you for this episode. What do you think about this, man? Is this good for Microsoft? Is this bad? I mean, what are some of the pros and cons to this that you think of?
Well, in talking with a lot of the guys, I'm really old school. I believe that exclusives are how you sell a system. They really are. Playing nice with the other systems is all well and good, but if you don't have exclusives, eventually your system will die. Look from the jump from the 360 to the Xbone. Yeah. They ended up losing a lot of, just didn't have hardly any exclusives to go on. And what happened? Sony's exclusives blew up, and they lost ground. This is a good move for them. If they can take these studios and actually not just, EA them and destroy them, then this could turn out to be a really strong push for Microsoft and may actually be the thing that they need to get back into things before the next generation.
Yeah, and I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is exactly what Microsoft needed to do. They needed to show us now what they're doing to plug up that gap or that leak there as far as the exclusives. So this is exactly what they need to do. Ninja Theory is a great get. That's a super talented studio. More games than just Hellblade that studio has made. So pretty much the whole conference, Microsoft hit everything out of the park. I don't know if they could have done anything better other than perhaps like a price drop or something like that to the Xbox. But man, they crushed it.
So Micah, what are some other things that they did to kind of help crush the show? What are some other things that you saw was whoa?
For me personally, I've been very excited and looking forward to what the new From Software game is that was teased back at the Game Awards last December. Mm-hmm. So it was Shadows Die Twice was the tagline in that teaser. So we got to see that it is indeed Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, the new game from Hidetaka Miyazaki, the great Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne director. So this is his next game. It looks a lot like, or not say a lot like, it looks kind of like Tenchu, the old Tenchu games, mixed with some Souls. So I am absolutely on board for this. That got me revved up for sure.
Yeah, it looked really, really good. I was kind of surprised that it looked as good as it did. I was definitely feeling some Tenchu vibes when I saw it show up on the stream. I'm like, dude, I remember playing those games on the 360 and really, really enjoying them. Now, David, are you much of a Dark Souls guy? Have you played those, or are you into those kind of games, or?
About the closest I got to actually being able to play one was Kingdoms of Amalur, which is not even close, but
okay.
I do have a pipeline to someone who has played it, and that's my youngest brother. And I was talking to him about it today, and he said, Bloodborne was more offensive attacks and stuff like that with the gun. Dark Souls was more defensive and parrying and all of that. And he said that Shadows Die Twice looks more like mobility. Yeah. Like this is going to be about moving around and, kind of a mix of the two combat wise from what he saw. So I did a little research so I wouldn't look like a complete fool when it came to some of this.
Yeah, some idea what you were talking about, right?
That's it. Watch some videos. It looked fun.
There you go.
A lot of death, a lot of dying.
Yeah,
always.
Which is per the course for those games.
Right.
Kind of reminds me of I think it's the Bloodborne board game. It's either I think it's the Dark Souls board game where
Dark Souls board game, yeah.
Yeah, when you lift up the lid and there's an insert that says right there, "You are dead" or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So good. One of the things I definitely want to talk about, at least with Microsoft, was kind of how they ended the conference. Phil Spencer comes out and he's making this kind of long speech about how they're committed to the future and they're committed to making some great games. then all of a sudden, all the screens kind of start glitching out, and it's like they're getting hacked. And that was when CD Projekt Red revealed their new game, Cyberpunk 2077, or as we have in the show notes here, aka Ready Player One, the game. But I mean, is this a game that you guys were interested in, or that you were looking forward to? Or I guess, Micah, let's start with you, man. What were your thoughts when you saw it unveiled for the first time?
Yes, coming into E3, was highly anticipating this game. Maybe top 2 or 3 that I was looking forward to seeing, and man, they sure delivered. That trailer was probably the best trailer of E3. I don't know, it was really, really good. I loved the way they did it too with the hacking of the Xbox conference.
Yeah.
That was great way to end it. I love cool kind of showmanship like that at E3 and sort of surprises like that. So that was a lot of fun. But the game looks sick. Oh my goodness! Like I've listened to like impressions of hands-on impressions of people playing it and stuff, and they're just like, this is absolutely wild that this is working, and that the world is kind of fleshed out already the way it is. I don't know when this game's coming out. I don't think they announced it, but it sounds like it's pretty far along, and it looks gorgeous. I made a post in the DRJ, like I didn't think that this was current gen, but it is. I was wowed.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look up any of the gameplay just yet, but I know that with CD Projekt Red being behind it, I mean, yeah, we know that at least the storytelling is going to be just insanely good. I mean, Witcher 3 had some of the best writing in video games I've personally ever seen. Content's questionable for sure, but the writing is pretty top notch. I mean, I would even say it's up there with like Naughty Dog in regards to The Last of Us, which we'll talk about a little bit later, Uncharted 4, and games like that. David, what about you, man? Any interest for Cyberpunk, or just kind of like, or?
Like, this wasn't even on my radar. And so I looked it up to go watch the trailer, and I was like, how did I not know about this? I mean, this is insanely good looking.
Yeah.
Just the way that the video cut in and everything. And it was like, I was almost like one of the people it's made for, just to shock us into how awesome would this be to play it. Like it was one of those that I looked at, I was like, okay, so maybe I'll hold on to my Xbone for a while.
Yeah.
I still got to play Cuphead, so there's that.
Yeah.
But I was just completely taken aback. The vistas were amazing. So I know if there's any kind of photo mode, you're tied up for 100 hours.
Oh, easily,
and,
easily.
And just like the neon and everything else, and Ready Player One, the game. I mean, that's what it is. I mean,
yeah,
it's just constant.
And
constant
at the
80
start
references.
At the start of the trailer, when he's on the train, I guess, and then he's looking out the window, and it opens up to see the city, and that music starts pumping. Yeah. Man, oh my goodness! If that don't get your heart racing, I don't know what will. That was so cool.
Yeah,
it was insane.
I know one thing is for sure, that if I don't get this game, I will at least get the soundtrack, because that opening that song in the trailer was just.
It's legit.
It's really good. Yeah, like it made me want to play the game really, really bad just to hear more of that music. And that's kind of my wheelhouse, is the sci-fi. I don't want to call it steampunk, but like the sci-fi kind of punk grunge look to it, that almost Blade Runner-esque feel, is definitely in my wheelhouse. And so I definitely will be keeping an eye on that game and seeing kind of what they do to the game. One other thing I did want to at least talk about with the Microsoft conference, and this was kind of said in passing, so I don't know how many people actually caught this, but Phil Spencer was talking about how they're kind of renewing their dedication to games and supporting the Xbox brand and supporting the player base. But one of the things that he mentioned during that speech was he let it slip that the developers and engineers at Microsoft or Xbox are working on the new consoles, or the next generation of consoles. And I'm like, that almost threw me for a loop for a little bit, because it made me wonder, well, wait a minute, are you guys saying that you're kind of closing the door on the Xbox One, and you guys are going to announce a new generation of consoles next year? Or, I mean, I don't know if you guys caught that, but I mean, what do you guys think about that?
I caught that. It was definitely interesting. wasn't expecting to hear anything whatsoever, especially on stage from Phil Spencer about anything like that, even a hint like he did it. So yeah, that was interesting and surprising. It was exciting too. I mean, anytime you talk about new hardware, that's exciting. I think that I still think it's early, and that I don't know if we're going to hit next year. I think maybe 2020 is a more realistic year that those things might release, the next Xbox, the next PlayStation. But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, David, what about you, man?
Yeah.
Are you excited about a next generation of consoles coming soon, or is that kind of like, well, wait a minute, guys, pump the brakes?
Well, for me, with the age of the systems that I own, I'm already behind. Thankfully, I do have at least the Xbone, but
Yeah.
If it goes up to the 5, I mean, I'm or not that's PlayStation, but whatever they're going to call it, Scorpio, whatever. Then I'm even further behind.
Yeah.
And it's like my backlog's already insane, like, and I don't want to give up, because then I'm a failure. I didn't complete all my 140-hour games like Lost Odyssey. I gotta
See, that's when you just pull up your GG app and just abandon them like I do with all the games I've got. Just like, forget it. I don't got time for this one. Let's move on to a new one.
Exactly.
But at the same token, I can understand the excitement, because with the new hardware comes the possibility of even better graphics, faster loading. We joke about, there's no real big difference between 30 and 60, but actually there is.
Yeah.
And the faster the frame rate, the better it looks, the crisper it looks, the cleaner it looks. And the more that you can take out of getting in between you and the experience, the more fun it is. That's what it's about, right? It's that whole experience of being in the game without actually having to be in the game and put yourself at real risk.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, I mean, the games even run smoother too. Like, I think it was it God of War I was playing at 60 frames, or at least it felt like 60 frames. Yeah, it makes a difference. It makes you kind of get more immersed into the game, which I know some people might be like, wait, isn't that a bad thing? Well, not necessarily, because it gets you more into the story, and you definitely find more enjoyment out of the game. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully they'll launch a new system with plenty of exclusives to make us Sony ponies
at a reasonable price point.
Yeah,
do either of you think with Phil getting up there mentioning it, do either of you think that Microsoft is trying to get out ahead this next generation, maybe ahead of Sony, like release a year or 6 months or whatever before?
What do you think, David?
I mean, it's possible. They're not held to the same lifespan that Sony is. Sony's been really clear about, hey, we're gonna support this system for 10 years. And I mean, you look at the Vita and the PS3, and been out for 10 years. I mean, these are old systems that are still having games. Persona 5 released on the PS3.
Yeah.
I mean, there still were games being released for the PS3. The Telltale Batman series released on the PS3. I mean, there's still games coming out for the system that, by all intents and purposes, back in the day would have been rotting on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah. And there's even still games coming out on the Vita too, like the Persona, my favorite series. They released 2 dancing games on the Vita recently in Japan, and then the American ports are coming early next year. So I mean, even the Vita is still getting supported. It's a slow sinking ship, but I mean, it's still getting supported. So yeah, for sure.
The most successful unsupported handheld ever.
I know, right? Oh man, definitely.
I love my Vita.
Yeah, it's definitely a great handheld. The Switch is the greater Vita, but the Vita is good.
It is.
So speaking of Sony, since I know we're all chomping at the bit to talk about that because we are Sony ponies. Real quick about Microsoft. Oh, that was awesome.
You're welcome.
Is there anything with Microsoft that you guys want to add in real quick before we move over to Sony?
Real quick. Ori and the Will of the Wisp looks incredible. I'm with Travis Crane on this. This game looks. I wish I had an Xbox for that. Man, looks awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, sure. I might actually have to suck it up and just deal with the controller for that game because it looked beautiful.
Yeah, dude. First one's fantastic.
I'm sorry. One other quick thing about Xbox, and this is I just heard this before recording. I thought it was so awesome. Okay, so we know about the new controller they came out with.
Oh yeah,
adaptive controller for disabled folks in all sorts of situations. So I heard a use case from someone who checked it out at E3, and he said one and this could apply to husband and wife, or like if you have a small child who is getting into games. So basically it has the thing where you can you could use two controllers for one port. So as the dad, you can control the thumbsticks, while son, you just have to press A to fire and X to jump or whatever.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And that is like one use case that the controller can do. I just thought that was cool as crap. I was like, wow, that's
kidding.
Like I would want to do with my kids.
Yeah.
As they're growing up. But anyway, I thought that was really, really neat. Kudos to Microsoft for even making that. They're not making any money off that thing. That's really cool.
Yeah,
indeed.
I didn't even know it would have that kind of use. I mean, I remember when they first announced it, I saw Major Nelson tweet it out, and I was looking at it, I'm like, that's cool. But hearing how it can be used in that way too, like it's I'll give Microsoft this. It's cool how when it comes to their controllers, or at least their system, they kind of build it or add in features or different peripherals that allow every kind of gamer to play on their system, and I think that's a cool thing that they do.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
indeed.
One thing I don't have in the show notes here is how gorgeous Forza Horizon 4 looked. We
don't need to talk about Forza.
Do what? So we do or don't need to talk about Forza?
We don't. No, it's fine. We can just because we'll spend 20 minutes on it once you get started.
Yeah, that's true. It is one of my favorite. It's the best racing game you can play right now. Anyway, dear listeners, you can look that up. I'll try to remember to put a link in the show notes there. One thing to note as well, Crackdown 3 got pushed back again to February 2019. So if you guys were looking forward to that, you're going to have to wait just a little bit longer. Not sure why, but
they have to fit more crews in it. I mean,
hey, if you can play as Terry Crews in it, I'll totally wait until February to play it, because that would make it worth it. But anyway, indeed. All right, let us get our Sony Pony fanboy section out of the way, which I don't know after that conference how much kind of fanboyish we'll be, but we'll see. So for those that didn't tune into this conference, it was a little bit of a different type of showcase kind of thing, where for those that were there at the conference, I'm sure it was really cool to experience, but for us at home, basically what we saw was
lame.
Because they had they showed off. They highlighted 4 games, right, on their stages, and they moved the press to different venues to fit the setting of those games. So it opened up because they revealed, not revealed, but they showed more of The Last of Us 2. And so they had everybody sitting in what was like a makeshift barn kind of thing, which when you see the trailer or the demo for Last of Us 2, it makes sense because it opens up in the same kind of setting. And so it's like, oh, cool. So we're like here in the same setting as the game. It's the same music played live in the venue. So I'm sure for the people there, it was awesome. But for us at home, it was just weird because there was even like 15-minute intermissions in between each demo, and it was just really disjointed. I think if we're honest, it wasn't Sony's best showing at E3. But let's talk about some of the games a little bit. What do we want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about how we got to see more of, or we actually got to see gameplay of Ghost of Tsushima? We want to talk about Last of Us 2. Where do you guys want to go first?
I mean, there's a lot to chop up with The Last of Us 2. It had obviously the opening scene, which depicts Ellie and this other girl having a somewhat intimate kiss on the dance floor. And then it proceeded to go into this really kind of this grisly stealth section
Yeah.
where Ellie is sneaking around I don't know, just an outdoor environment, and having just some pretty brutal deaths and kills and whatnot. And so it's kind of blowing up in the community and just in all the gaming community about just kind of the violence level and how far are we going here. So there's some controversy there, but yeah, I'm still trying to sift through some of it and kind of just educate myself more than just spouting off. But one thing I was thinking about with The Last of Us 2 and the violence is, Naughty Dog is, one of the very best developers around, and they make some of the most beautiful games around. So, it just goes to show if they're going to make a game with tone like The Last of Us, that the violence will look quite real, and boy did it ever. So I think that comes into play because people compare, like, well, what about the violence in this game or that game? You're not talking about that. Naughty Dog makes it look so stinking real that it comes to a point where, like, I don't want to look at that.
Yeah.
And so you definitely have to ask yourself some questions, I think, and maybe challenge yourself a little bit as a Christian. Should you be playing something like this? I think it would be healthy for anyone to ask, really, for any game, period.
Yeah, no kidding.
For something popular and that is, I'm sure, going to have a quality story to it and a narrative that a lot of people want to soak up. I know I do. We need to ask ourselves these questions, I think.
Yeah, and kind of as you were saying that, it made me think back to that chapter in Blood, Sweat, and Pixels where it was talking about the development for Uncharted 4 and how pretty much everyone at Naughty Dog is a self-proclaimed, maybe not a self-proclaimed, but I mean, they're perfectionists. They pay so much attention to detail, even just some of the smallest little details that you may never see, but they see it, and it'll drive them nuts until they get it right. And this is where you kind of see that on display. I mean, for me personally, when I was watching the demo and seeing the gameplay of it, like, there was several times where I had to look away and stop watching because I felt myself gagging, and like if I kept watching, I was probably going to get really sick. And like, I mean, for those of you that are listening that haven't seen it yet, I mean, viewer discretion, that's your own thing. Watch it at your own discretion. It's pretty graphic. I mean, it's in some ways I would say it's worse than Mortal Kombat because of how realistic it looks versus the more cartoonish
especially
look.
that final fight that she's having in that kind of grown-up convenience store type place. I mean, the level of it was hatred. It was vitriol. I mean, I felt tainted from it. It was like I was going to get the blood on me. And unfortunately, I didn't get to play the first game. Mm-hmm. But I've heard y'all go on and on about how great the story is and all of that. But now seeing what I've seen from this preview, as a person who suffers from anger issues, I can't put myself in this game because I'm just going to let myself sin through this game. Yeah. This is not a game that I can play. You add on top of that all of the virtue signaling and LGBT pushing, I'm just not going to play the series. Yeah. And, that's kind of sad because, I've heard such great things about the first game. But my thing is that why do I want to subject myself to that?
Yeah. And plus, I mean, you've got other great games to play like Fortnite. So there's that.
Well, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
We'll get to there.
But, so I mean, and that's probably a conversation that me and Adam will probably revisit on a later episode. It's kind of like the use of violence in games and how that can be a good thing or it can be exploitative and so
it's a topic definitely worth exploring past what we've said here
for today. Sure. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's a good start of a discussion to kind of get a good primer of it. So, dear listeners, you can kind of let us know on Patreon or YouTube or Facebook group kind of what your thoughts are on the game and the use of violence in games, and we can kind of get that discussion going. But to kind of keep it going here, so that way we don't spend too much time camping out on this one game, let's talk about another one that kind of surprised me. I was not expecting this game to look as good as it did, and that is Ghost of Tsushima, which is Sucker Punch's new game, right? It is Sucker Punch.
I was drooling,
right?
Drooling so hard. Oh, man. I mean, I was like, if anytime there was a game built for the PlayStation Eye, and then someone pointed out, yeah, because then you would see how bad you suck at sword fighting. So,
yep. So to kind of give people a primer of what Ghost of Tsushima is, and Mikey, you might have to help me out with this because you might be more knowledgeable of it than I am.
Yeah. Well. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, man, go ahead, because I mean, you probably know more about it than I do. I just know it looked like Samurai Champloo, but as a PS4 exclusive.
Yeah, it's this feudal Japan set in the 13th century, 12th century, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you follow this. It's a character action game, much like nearly all of Sony's first party games.
Yeah.
So it's not like a make a character role playing game, but it is confirmed as open world. So in the demo, you play as this character Jin, and you hop on your horse and you start going through this gorgeous field. And my jaw's open on the floor at this point. I'm like, okay, it's open world. I'm just trying to figure out what this game is. But it goes on the horse. He encounters a handful of enemies, and he pulls this move in combat. He just waits like a samurai for the enemy to attack, and then he one slices them, like 45-degree angle up, and it was like, oh my gosh, that was sick. And it's gorgeous. I couldn't believe it.
I think straight out of the scabbard. I mean, just the instant switch attack. Oh God. I was like, okay, so this is live action anime only with real swords.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. And that's the thing that caught my eye with it. The moment that the fighting started, I was like, dude, like, because I had just watched Samurai Champloo a couple months ago, which is one of my favorite animes, because it's like
it's a fun show.
It is a fun show. So it's definitely got me interested. I want to see more about the game. It seems like one that I could really get into. But yeah, it looks gorgeous. I think the thing that stunned me the most was closer to the end of the demo, where two characters are about to fight, and it's just this beautiful sunset with the blossom trees kind of swirling around, and it is a gorgeous game. You want to talk about games as art? Look at that, and it's wow.
Well, I was thinking about how Sucker Punch made Infamous Second Son at the very beginning of the PS4 generation. That game looked awesome back then, and they've had a whole, basically, entire generation now to keep working on their engine and their tech and stuff. And gosh, they've cranked out something special, I think.
Yeah, they did. That work clearly shows. It's cool. So, dear listeners, if that's one that you saw as well, I mean, the same thing with all of these, really. Let's talk about that. And so let's talk about this one, because I was not expecting this. Micah, you called this one.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I thought it was a dark version of Ratatouille 2, but come to find out it was Resident Evil 2 remake.
I was anticipating it the whole time. I was ready for it. As soon as I saw it had like a PlayStation 1 console sitting there, I'm like, is this it? Is this it?
I didn't even see that. I missed that completely. That's cool, though.
Yeah. The Rat sees a little PlayStation 1 console sitting there on the desk or whatever. This is my game of the show. Resident Evil 2 was my very first PlayStation game I ever bought on the PlayStation 1. So this is like the genesis of my Sony poniness, if you want to call it that.
This is what started
But yeah, while everyone was enjoying Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, I was playing Resident Evil 2. I cannot wait. I was watching some hands-on impressions of it, and it looks to be coming out great.
Yep.
Same engine as Resident Evil 7. Looks like they're really putting a lot of time and care into this.
Yeah, it looks good. David, have you ever? What about you, man? Are you into the Resident Evil games? Does this kind of interest you at all? What do you think?
That's a whole box of nope.
Love that response.
I am not into horror games at all. It is not my thing.
Yeah.
depending, but Resident Evil has always been just the epitome of good zombie game.
Yes.
I mean, it has set the standard. I mean, I know this. I know a lot of the storyline because I was interested in it, but I knew I couldn't play it because I value my underpants, and I can't afford to keep replacing them every time I get jump scared. So it's just one of those game series that I wanted to, kind of like Silent Hill. I wanted but I was like, no, I know better. I know how I am. I mean, there was it Paranormal Activity my wife wanted to go see, and I couldn't sleep for a week afterwards. I mean,
dude,
this is just
same
me.
here. I hear that. I hear that.
And I don't care who thinks I'm a pansy or what. I just, you know what? Enjoy yourself. I'll go play my 140-hour RPGs.
There you go, man.
I will enjoy myself.
Oh man, yeah, I was surprised by it. I wasn't expecting it because I remember Micah, you posted it in the group and you said that you were expecting it. I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then I saw it and I'm like, well, this looks really good. I guess I'm gonna go ahead and actually finish this game because I remember playing this game on the GameCube back when the GameCube was getting all the Resident Evil games after Zero.
Yeah.
And me and my cousin were playing it. And I got so close to the end. I was in the sewers with the giant spiders. And this was back when, I was deathly afraid of spiders. And so when they first showed up on the screen, I screamed so loud through the controller. And, I got chucked the remote at the TV or something. And my cousin was just
So this was
there.
3 weeks ago?
Hey, you know what? Maybe. But no, so I'm looking forward to actually being able to give it another go and see if I can get past the sewers and check that out. So it should be interesting. Should be interesting. But speaking of spiders, man, let's talk about that Spider-Man demo. What in the world? How great is this game going to be? It's going to be great, cool, fantastic discussion over. Let's go on to Nintendo. No, I'm kidding. What did you guys think of Spider-Man?
Micah, go ahead. I mean, because I'm just gonna I'm gonna be fanboying for probably a good 5 minutes.
I've spoken my piece already on the podcast and in the Facebook group. This is my number one anticipated game. I cannot wait, and Insomniac is crushing it with this game.
Yeah.
There's been lots of hands-on impressions that have come out of E3 for Spider-Man. They've played the demo, and it's all just great praise. I was listening to the Easy Allies talk about the combat and how that was surprisingly almost more special than the swinging, which is great to hear. Goodness gracious, that demo looked great. Obviously, if you were ever complaining about, Mr. Negative, well, they brought out the villains.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that trailer looked incredible.
Yeah, because we saw who all did we see? We saw Scorpion, we saw Rhino, we saw Electro. Of course, Mr. Negative showed up again. There's one more I'm forgetting, and I can't.
Vulture.
Vulture, that's it. Yeah.
And then the mystery man at the end that we did not see.
So who do you guys think that is? Because I'm thinking that's Green Goblin, because I thought I heard some glider noises when that showed up.
I mean, it's either going to be Goblin or Ock. I mean, those are going to be your two bigs, especially when you're talking about the Sinister Six.
Yeah. Yep.
So
that's what I was thinking. So now,
okay. So can I wax eloquent now,
dude? Go for it, man. It's the Sony Pony Hour of the show.
Okay, so I finally got to sit down and actually just watch the trailer and just the way they went from the transition from the video to the gameplay. Yeah. I'm ripping this off from someone else. I don't know who, but it looks like Arkham Asylum, combat mixed with actual spider powers and just, slow-mo and just Tech Radar. That's who I'm ripping it off from. But yeah, I mean, and it does. It looks amazing. The powers that he has, the one-liners, the dialogue. It was like I'm watching Spider-Man right now, and I'm watching good classic 90s comic book Spider-Man,
Yes.
not a lot of what they've redone. And don't get me wrong, the Spider-Man game that they did on the was it the PS2 that they did based off the movies wasn't that bad. And you got Bruce Campbell as
they did. I forgot about that.
I mean, and anything that Bruce Campbell touches is gold, just about. So, those weren't bad games, but this looks to take everything that they've learned from all these other gaming experiences and going to the next level and actually giving us a true Spider-Man experience unlike we've ever had before.
Yeah.
And we don't have to relive the origin story.
Thank goodness, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh man. So do you guys think this will be to Spider-Man what the Arkham games were to Batman?
It looks like it.
I don't know if they're going to make a trilogy out of it.
Yeah.
If that's what you mean, I think it's going to be the same quality as those Rocksteady games. I think it's going to be on the same tier. But I think this is gosh, I don't know. I was about to say I think this is probably going to be a one and done kind of deal. It seemed like it was hard to make it happen.
It's going to make too much money.
But it is going to sell like hotcakes. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd be open to a Spider-Man trilogy because I mean, if it's as good as what everybody says it is, I will want more.
Yeah,
but
just like Batman.
Yes,
we
just
all
like
wanted
Batman.
more.
So cool. Is there anything else with Sony that you guys want to mention real quick before we transition over to Nintendo's conference, or is that kind of?
Go ahead, David.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think they whiffed on this one. I think they forgot that this is not just the experience for those there, that it's broadcast. And those, you mentioned kind of in passing the intermissions. It was like watching someone record a podcast.
Yeah.
And it looked forced. Like it was even worse as it looked forced, and it looked like they were, just trying to, make it all exciting. But I mean, guys, if you want to make it exciting, look at what Nintendo did. Xbox wasn't too, Microsoft wasn't too bad either. But I mean, keep it short, show the games, show them the good stuff, and move on.
Yeah.
You want to give us an experience? How about you spend more money on the games and less on this experience? Yeah. That's the only thing I would say. And I'm a Sony pony, from the PS1 days. So, I mean, they swung and miss, I want to say 2 years in a row now. They really have, like last year's wasn't that great either.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just, they need to right the ship when it comes to E3. And just get back to doing games. And, granted, they're on top right now, so they can get away with a lot.
Sure.
As we'll talk about here in a few minutes.
Well, I don't know if they can get away with the. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I was gonna add to that is that it's weird because it seems like what they're doing with their E3 stuff is they're trying to make it more like the PlayStation Experience conferences that they hold towards the end of the year each year, and it's like that's fine for when it's your conference you're putting on. But it's like what you said, when you come to E3, like you got to do it the right way. You got to keep it short, sweet, to the point, and just let the games speak for themselves. It's kind of like what Colin Moriarty was saying in his review for the PlayStation conferences. Like they have a great lineup of games, so just get out of the way and let them speak for themselves.
Indeed,
because I mean that's all you really got to do. So, Michael, did you got anything else to add?
Just real quick, I don't think you can really mention Sony without mentioning Death Stranding. It continues to look, weird and like intriguing. And what is this? And is it a walking simulator now?
Oh, it's totally a walking simulator.
I do believe that was the actual first. That's actually gameplay that we've seen. But I think that was intentionally boring, so to speak. But from Kojima, he always. He has a plan with every piece that he shows to the public with his games, and I'm not going to question him. That game holds my interest, but it wasn't like, oh wow, look at Death Stranding. But that game is wild.
Yeah, it is. It is one of those things. It made me want to come up with another parody song to send to Weird Al, call it "Baby in a Jarro." It kind of creeped me out. But I will say this: it's Kojima. I'm interested.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
That's exactly it.
I mean, his name. I mean, his name is gold. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, he has put out good game after good game. Doesn't matter that the story is convoluted as all get out, and you may not even understand it. The game is still good.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those things where it's like you might get the platinum trophy for playing the game, and you probably still won't really understand what's going on.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that was the Sony showcase, the Sony conference at E3. Dear listeners, brought to you by dear VIP Gareth Evans. Let's go on into Nintendo. They're showing at E3, brought to you by Eric Bryant. Let's just talk about the thing that was shown off the most, which was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now, before we get into this, are you guys interested in Nintendo at all? Do you guys have Switches? Do you care? David, what about you, man? Where are you at when it comes to Nintendo?
I want it, precious. I want it so bad.
Yes.
But there's this thing called money, and I have kids, and they take all of it.
Yep.
But that being said, anytime Smash comes, I get excited because it's just fun. My brother has a Switch, so I'll probably play on his.
You'll quote unquote borrow it, right?
Exactly, indefinitely. Because I'm the oldest brother, I get to do things
There
like
you
that.
go. Yeah, you seniority rules.
That's it. But looking at Smash, I mean, you got Snake. You got, I mean, the one-time characters, just all of them.
Yeah, how
Everybody's here.
I want to say, how insane is that roster that they have every character that was ever in a Smash Brothers game is in this game? That's a huge roster of close to 70 characters to choose from.
I mean, that's.
Well, when the guy was like, the number next to their name signifies when they came into the series, I was like, okay, buckle up.
Yep, it's like, here we go. But yeah, it looks impressive. Of course, it's not every character because Waluigi isn't quite there. He's there as an assist trophy, but you know,
that's all he ever was. Apparently, I looked into it.
Apparently, people just don't care.
Yeah,
just don't care.
I mean, I care.
Yeah, we care, but
that's right.
Nintendo doesn't apparently. But anyway, so it looks great. It looks fantastic. There's a level of detail to the game that they revealed when discussing it. I mean, when Olimar from Pikmin gets damaged, there's cracks that show up in his helmet, and a few other things that they showed off, which is really impressive that they're putting that level of detail into the game, even though we may not see it while playing the game because the action is so fast. It's still cool that they're still putting that kind of care into the game. And there's just a lot to go over that game. But dear listeners, you're better off to just look up that direct and take it all in for yourselves because there's just so much.
And the treehouse right afterwards.
And the treehouse right afterwards, where they showed off Ridley, who's a new character that they announced coming to the game, which. Me being the Metroid fanboy of the show, I was getting all kinds of giddy. People in the Discord chat know what I'm talking about because I was losing my mind. I was freaking out like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Showing that Metroid love, getting me hyped because we know Metroid Prime 4 is coming around the corner, even though they didn't say anything about it at E3. So that was
they didn't want your head to explode. They knew that you would be watching, and they knew if they did that and Metroid Prime 4 stuff, that I mean, your head would literally explode, and there would be no more Logan. So they were thinking only of you. That's what it was.
I can appreciate that.
My thing that I'm excited about with it is going to be Ryu in the one-on-ones.
Yeah, how
he'll automatically switch. Like, so there won't be Tetsuya Ryukins when you were going for a Hadouken. It's for those of us who loved Street Fighter. That's going to be just a really small detail, but it makes the game better.
Yeah.
It makes the character better.
And plus it kind of gets you an easier into the game too. Like it gets you more kind of amped to play it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike, I was gonna say, Micah, go ahead, man.
Oh, I didn't say anything, but
Oh.
yeah, I mean, Smash looks awesome. I mean, it's incredible that they got pretty much everyone in there. Yeah, I've got a Switch. I'm gonna pick this up. I've got kids; they're gonna love it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be good.
Right on. Now, let me ask you guys this question here, because some people are kind of upset, or at least some of the things that I saw online. Some people are upset with the release date. Some people say it's a little too late. Game is coming out December 5th, later this fall, or later this winter. What do you guys think about that release date? Do you think that's too late? Should it be sooner? Does it not matter? Kind of where are you guys at? Micah, let's kick it back to you.
I don't know if it really matters a whole lot. I think there is just probably general disappointment with it not being, kind of day and date, or at least around the same time as the Switch Online service going live for real in September, I believe. So I think that's just where the backlash is coming from. I think if that wasn't happening and you saw December, you'd be pleased, because I mean, before the announcement, did we even know Smash was coming this year, or maybe I'm mistaken, but just having it 2018, I feel like is solid. So I feel fine with that date.
Yeah,
I think it's perfect. I think it makes complete sense, because there's people like me who don't have a Switch yet, and this is right between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Exactly.
Kind of a perfect release time if you want to sell a bundled package with the Switch.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a bundle. I mean, there's no way there's not.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
Smash is one of their big games. It's, it's one of their, tops. It's up there with Mario and Zelda and DK, Star Fox, Smash. I mean, and wait, we didn't even mention this. What about the GameCube controller? Ability?
Yeah, that's
GameCube
cool.
Support.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about, like, when they said that, I was like, oh man, I could actually play this game again.
Yeah.
Because aside from the PlayStation controller, the GameCube controller is one of the best controllers I've ever played with.
Yes. Thank you. Preach.
I mean, it really is. I mean, so them putting that in there, not only that, I mean, you go to Amazon, you can find third-party controllers, because Nintendo doesn't care. They're like, yeah, go ahead, do it. That are basically shaped exactly like SNES controllers, and you put that together with like Ryu, and you're talking about a person who can just waylay people with Street Fighter in Super Smash Brothers. I mean, so
that's crazy. Yeah, I remember when they announced that, I was like, oh, cool, because I bought the Super Smash Brothers one for the Wii U when they released that controller with the game, and I'm like, cool, I'm actually going to be able to use this thing for something instead of just letting it collect dust in the box there. I'm with you on that. I think the release date is perfect. I think one of the things I liked about it was that that's going to be around the time that my students are going to be finishing up with school and finals and stuff. So I know a lot of them are going to be picking it up. And so when they pick it up and they're done with school, like, we're just going to get to play it all winter break and just kind of wreck shop with that and kind of one up one another. So I think it's fine. The fact that we're getting it this year makes me happy. And if I remember correctly, I think that's around the same date that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out last year also. I could be wrong on that, but so that at least they're getting it out before Christmas, which is kind of the important thing. So let's talk about a couple more things. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, since I'm Adam, I'll bring up Super Mario Party, because I'm also kind of stoked about that one.
Man, I'm pumped.
I was not expecting that. I really wasn't. And then when I saw it,
that was a shocker.
Wow. It looks good. I'm glad that they're not continuing with that stupid thing they had in the last one where you were all in a cart together and you were all moving at the same pace along the board. That doesn't feel like Mario Party to me. So, and this one definitely looked like it. Did you guys catch the way that they're kind of doing the games with how, like, you can kind of use two Switch tablets to change the layout of the map?
That looks sweet.
How cool is that?
That looks so sweet.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love all the old Mario. When I say all the old Mario parties, all the sort of GameCube ones and
Mhm.
that era, the 4, 5, 6, 7. And,
Yeah.
those were so much fun playing with college buddies or whatever. So when I saw Super Mario Party, I flipped out. I was very excited for that.
Yeah, even the N64 one that you burned through the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
I think I still have a scar from that.
I think a lot of us probably still do. There's something I was gonna say about it, and then I totally forgot. Oh, I mean, yeah, just the way that they're using the Joy-Cons too with the motion and all that looks really cool. It kind of makes you wonder what all the games are gonna or how they're gonna play and stuff. But it's nice that we're getting one of those, and that comes out October 5th, I think. Right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So again, I think that right there is perfect timing too, because that's going to be a great game to take with you when you go visit family at Thanksgiving dinners, or if you're wanting to just totally ignore them because your family drives you nuts, you can play Mario Party and just, I guess, play by yourself.
That doesn't happen to anyone ever.
No.
Well, it's confirmed to have online play, this one, so I think that may be a first.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, really?
Yeah, I saw that.
Man,
dude,
the Switch is looking better and better.
That is a real thing.
We're going to have to get some TRG Mario Party game nights going then.
Dude, yes, that'd be legit. Absolutely.
Oh,
indeed.
So
maybe if we could get some cross-platform play with the PC.
Dude, that's a perfect segue into what I was going to talk about next. Because one of the other big things that they announced was that Fortnite is on the Switch, and you could download it right then and there with crossplay. You can crossplay with people on Xbox, PC, mobile, but not PS4, and that's
because that's when Matambe came out and said, not in my house.
Yeah, exactly, and that's been a whole thing online, right? Micah, where are you at on it, man?
It's one thing with the whole crossplay thing. It's just been kind of like, okay, Sony, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. You're in first place and all that sort of stuff. So up to this point, it's been, borderline innocent. It's okay. You don't want to do Rocket League with Xbox, just with PC. Okay, whatever. But now this is something completely different.
So what makes it different from Rocket League and some of the other games?
Well, before it was just Sony saying, yeah, we're not going to do crossplay with the consoles. They have no problem doing crossplay with PC, but Xbox Switch, no, we don't want to do that. So now that Fortnite is launching on Switch, it was a shadow drop. It launched that day, so people anxiously jumped in. Yeah, let's play some Switch, and so a lot of people had brought in their PS4. Fortnite account, their Epic account, and got an error message saying like, hey, you can't use this account. It's supported on another platform or something of that nature. And vice versa. If you start switching, try to go to PS4, it's going to say, nope, don't like it. So it's I think the fake Kazurai said it best about another Sony exclusive is your Fortnite account or something like that. But having to actively prevent someone from enjoying a game on another platform that is completely unrelated to anything, it's just unfathomable. I'm like, how is this even? Like, what are you doing, Sony? I mean, and I'm kind of, I don't know. Like, I've got a lot of questions. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, what is Epic doing? Like, did they know this was going to happen? And if so, why did they let it happen? But I don't want to put the onus on Epic, but don't get me wrong. This is on Sony 100%. But it's like, what is going on that this would even get by, period?
Yeah.
And then Sony, I think they just announced today they finally had like a response, and it was just the weakest stuff I've ever read. And they didn't even address
know that they responded.
They came out with a response and said, "Hey, you're welcome to play with Fortnite. We love playing, cross play with the PC and the Android and iOS and all this stuff." And that's pretty much all they said.
Oh,
and
wow!
They didn't say anything about the Switch. It was a non-answer.
Oh.
And so that's making people even more mad. I think it's going to come to a head, like a real head. We've been talking about it some in the group about what's it going to take to get Sony to, change their mind about this or do something different. And since they're kind of leading the charge right now, it's not going to be money. I think it's going to be consumer pressure, and that's happening right now.
Yeah. Do you guys think that a lot of people are going to stop playing it on PS4 to go play it on mobile or play it on the Switch or even Xbox?
I'm going to let y'all finish because I'm going to present the opposing view when this is done.
I don't know to answer your question, Logan. I saw Greg Miller tweet out, it's like, this doesn't make me want to play it on PS4 more. It makes me want to get an Xbox is what it makes me want to do. It makes me want to do the opposite of what you're intending, Sony. Yeah. And I kind of agree with that sentiment a little bit, but, you're talking about getting a hold of it. Or for some people, talking about getting a hold of a console potentially. I don't know if it's going to move the needle that much, but it's certainly not a good look, and it's just I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just head scratching. Like, what are you doing, Sony?
Yeah. David, you mentioned that you're going to bring in the opposing view, man. So go ahead and bring the heat. Be like, X gonna give it to you. Give it to us, man.
All right. Let me stretch out. Okay.
Get ready for this, right?
Yeah, I got to get ready for the hit back because it's going to be hard and fast.
Okay.
But here's my deal on this. Okay, number one, when you bought Fortnite, did the Switch have Fortnite? No. You didn't pay for crossplay with the Switch. You paid for Fortnite on the PS4. So it's not like they're stealing anything from you. They're just not doing crossplay. It's not something that you paid for and didn't get. That's point one. Number two, and somebody else can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the numbers that I saw were 80 million PlayStation users versus 40 million Xbox and Switch users. That's going to be PlayStation can pretty much do what they want at that point, and if they don't want to do crossplay and open themselves up to, the possible security issues or whatever, because I went back and looked at some of the things that they said in the past about crossplay. And they were like, well, we can't control the people on these other services. If they're jerks, we can't boot them off. And our subscribers pay us for the experience, was their wording then. Now, granted, when Xbox 360 was ruling the roost, they were all like, oh, yeah, come on, we can do crossplay. It'll be great, And Microsoft was like, no, it's cool. We're cool. We ain't got to do that. And now the tables have turned. And, do I think it's right? No, I'm right there with y'all. I think it should be open. We should be able to play on any system, whatever. But the bottom line is, when people paid for it on the PS4 and all that stuff on that account, they weren't buying crossplay. That wasn't what they were paying for. So those that are like feeling like they're getting cheated or anything like that, they're not. They feel a little entitled to something, and that's something that's happened a lot lately, especially when other companies started giving these extras. It was almost like, well, you should give us these extras too because they're doing it. That's not that's not a good way to go about things. Now, again, do I agree with what Sony's doing? No. I think you got a massive game like that. Yes, crossplay would be amazing to play against Xbox, PC, Switch, whatever. But, crossplay has been one of those holy grails of gaming for ages. And it all depends on who's on top as to who's willing to do it at the time. Sony's on top. They're not willing to do it. Sony's not on top. Well, maybe they'll sing a different tune, because that seems to be what's happened now with Microsoft. Nintendo, on the other hand, they're like, yeah, we don't care. Yeah, come on, everybody. Yeah, it's all about gamers. It's all about gamers. And it's one of the reasons why people still love Nintendo, even though they put out, pardon the word, but they put out crap the last generation. Yeah. It was not a good system. It didn't work well. And, it wasn't good. And I love Nintendo. I love their games, but they didn't do well. The Switch, like you said, it's the greater Vita.
Yep, in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's a whole big thing that's just kind of I don't know. It almost kind of begs the question, like for Sony at least, is this like a hill that you kind of want to die on, or or is it just kind of us being entitled? I don't know. Dear listeners, this is a thing that we'll probably talk about. Me and Adam will talk about in future episodes as well. But hey, you let us know what your thoughts are on Patreon, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're at, and we'll kind of go from there. But hey, if you're playing on the Switch or mobile or PC or Xbox, let me know, because I got into it because it's on my Switch and I am putting way too much time into that game and probably too much money. But
and if anyone's looking to me to yell at me, you can find me on Facebook under the name Douglas Muldroon. Douglas Muldroon. That's my
Someone's furiously typing right now. I'm going to have to get that Douglas.
Micah started working on the angry letter like the moment you started talking, man. Like, I'm going to show him. No, so let's round out the show a little bit with just some notes of the other conferences as well. I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the fact that Bethesda announced the Elder Scrolls 6, that it's at least in development along with Starfield. Guys, where are you at with Elder Scrolls? Do you care? Do you not care? Are you hyped? Or are you just like, whatever? Micah, where you at?
I totally care, and I can totally wait. I didn't think they needed to announce it, but I don't think anyone was surprised. Everyone knows they're making it. It's just, I was sort of hoping for a subtitle, Skyrim, or whatever. What's it going to be called? Didn't get that, obviously, but yeah, that's big news. Todd Howard. Gosh, he's so smooth. Is he not the smoothest E3 presenter just in history?
He's kind of like the Fonz of E3 anytime I see him. The dude's he's slick.
He knows how to present a game, too. Anytime they do those Fallout or whatever, he's detailing a game. It's just like, yeah, I get this. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm with you. He's just such a great showman and presenter.
Yeah, he is. David, what about you, man?
I need to play Skyrim before I can comment.
Can I just spoil it for you, man? You're not missing out on anything.
I've heard differently. But
you're gonna get a fight on that, Logan.
I know people are gonna like immediately just stop caring about Fortnite. Like, wait a minute, Logan just said that Skyrim is just. Yeah, it's a game I couldn't get into. I put over 100 or so hours into Oblivion, really enjoyed that, and I couldn't get into Skyrim. I tried, and I just couldn't.
Look, I'm cheaper than Adam, okay? So, my games are mostly free with Plus, or, somebody gives them to me. Like, I think my brother's supposed to be giving me the 30th anniversary Street Fighter for my birthday.
Nice.
Yeah, except it's going to be on the Xbone, so...
Yeah.
But I told him he had to get me a fight stick with it too.
Yeah, but, you almost got to.
But you're talking about Elder Scrolls. Well, what about? And this was me, Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, I don't care.
I'm all about that. I'm with you. I'm with you there, David. I'm going through the Kingdom Hearts series with my 7-year-old daughter right now. We're in the middle of Kingdom Hearts 2, and so Kingdom Hearts 3 is very much on our radar. She's been watching the trailers with me and stuff. That's it's very exciting. And then we have a release date, an actual date.
I know.
So, yeah,
final date.
Cool.
And being on the Xbox.
Yeah,
so
more people can play it.
That's it.
I honestly thought that it was already coming to Xbox before they said that, but cool. Yeah, that is very cool.
Yeah, it's an added bonus. So that comes out January 29th of next year. Is that right?
Yep.
It's January. I'm not sure the exact date.
Okay.
29th sounds right.
Yeah. So, that'll be cool. I just started Kingdom Hearts 2, so I need to actually get through it. But It looks cool. I like the way it looks. There's just a lot of things they're doing with the combat, the different worlds they're going to. I mean, they're going to Toy Story, so I'm definitely going to be playing it because Toy Story is one of my favorite Disney movies of all time.
It's a lot of fun. Just don't try to make any sense of the story.
Right. Yeah. Don't.
I tried reading.
I hear there's a.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that there's supposedly this 1 hour video on YouTube that can kind of walk you through it.
Yep. That's what I watched.
Okay. No.
It's still going to make your head hurt, but I mean, it does.
It may or may
bring
not
some clarity to it.
I played both of the main games and some of the other games. Okay, so I love this series, but it's almost as convoluted as Metal Gear. I mean,
yeah,
I think it's more convoluted than Metal. Well, I don't know. I take that back.
No, I would say it's more convoluted than Metal Gear. A lot of people give me
that's a tough. That's a TRG poll right there.
Let's do it. Let's make it an
is.
extremely vague poll. We'll put it in the group and see what happens.
There you go.
See how it goes. I'm actually going to do that after we're done recording this show, just to mess with people. So yeah, it should be good. Looking forward to that. Now, one other thing I want to talk about real quick. Are we sold on Anthem, or are we still kind of? I mean, for me personally, I'm kind of skeptical about it still. I don't know where you guys are on Anthem, but David, what about you, man?
I'm skeptical as well.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, David. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to say it's EA. So, I mean, right now that kind of says it all.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Anything that they put out, I'm skeptical on, because they've taken great series, and granted, they've done some good things, but like, I mean, I used to love Madden. I just can't get into it anymore. I mean, they try to keep putting it out every year. We got to get that next one out. Got to make that extra buck. And instead of like actually trying to let's make these games better, or then they take ones like, I didn't get it because I heard so many bad things about it, but they take like the Star Wars Battlefront and like just completely, destroy what could have been an amazing game at a time when Star Wars is still, I mean, it's repopularizing with the release of the new movies for better or for worse. And they're basically almost ruin it. I mean, and then of course, loot boxes, which are lovely Patreon
you got me so triggered.
It's just EA. When I saw you back in the day, when I saw EA, I knew I was getting a good game. Mm-hmm. I don't think that anymore.
Yeah.
Like I don't trust them anymore. So when you look at a game like Anthem, I'm like cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Maybe. But it's EA.
I hear that, man. That's how I am when after they burn me with Mass Effect Andromeda, the direction they've taken, the Need for Speed series. I'm in the same boat. Micah, what about you, man?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. It's hard to get fully behind any recent release that they've had. But we keep talking about EA. It almost boils down, do you trust BioWare? Are they the BioWare that we knew and loved from the past? We'll see. It looks promising. I've heard some good reports coming out of the E3 about it. I'm not writing it off by any means. I mean, I'd like to play it, and I'd love for it to be good. But I'm not huge on any game that's wanting me to come back every day or every week to play. Yeah. So I don't know that I'm necessarily going to pick it up, but it does look good, and it looks like it could scratch that itch for a lot of people. But no, I'm not sold on it, not by any stretch.
Yeah, me either. Dear listeners, you'll have to let us know what you think of Anthem. And of course, we're kind of running out of time here. So just if we missed anything, let us know on Patreon, Facebook, and let's talk about some of the things that you got really hyped up about. I mean, I know there's some of you out there that are probably hyped up about The Division 2, and I'm definitely keeping an eye on it. But with that is episode 120, our E3 Roundtable. David, Micah, guys, thanks for coming on the show, helping me discuss this in lieu of Adam's absence. It's good always having the patrons on here and getting you guys in on the show. But as always, before we end the show, some recos. David, what should our dear listeners check out?
Okay, so firstly, if you have kids, and I know there's a number of parent gamers in the group, one, play age-appropriate games with them, but not just video games. Board games are fun too.
Ooh, there you go.
And this is, I'm saying it as much for myself as I am for anyone else. But I've recently started trying to teach my 6 and 7-year-old dominoes, which is just a classic old school. You can still play that when the power's out. And it teaches math. But as something my wife kind of dogs me on. We have to watch how much screen time we let our kids have. Mm-hmm. And this is a way that we can still play games with them and still have fun with them, but not necessarily with a controller in hand. Not that that's anything wrong. I love it. I mean, I'm playing Super Mario RPG with my kids right now and teaching them how to play 140-hour games.
There you go.
Train them right. But, there's that. And do I just go down my list?
Oh, yeah, man. Go through all your recos. Just throw them out there.
Okay. All right. Next, I just finished The Holiness of God by R.C. Sproul. If
book.
You have not read that book, you need to go get savaged by it. It is
savaged by it.
It will hurt you in a good way. But it needs to happen. We need to understand how holy God is.
Yeah.
And finally, and this is kind of self-serving, but become a foster parent or support one. There are a lot of kids in the foster care system that need help. I am a foster parent, where our foster child will unfortunately probably be reuniting soon, but that's good news. That means the parents got right. We need help. Foster parents need help. We need support. So we either need more people with us or more people beside us. So that's my recommendations right there.
Right on. Micah, what about you, man? What do you got for the listeners?
Oh, keeping with the holiness theme, R.C. Sproul, I mentioned it on the last podcast I was on. We had just started reading Holiness by JC Ryle in our small group, and we are nearly done with it on the next to last chapter, and goodness gracious, this is an excellent book. Very challenging and convicting, but also it's really uplifting and encouraging at the same time. Holiness by JC Ryle is an excellent book. And then last thing, I haven't been playing a ton of different new games lately. Been playing some Detroit and stuff, but I've been playing a little bit of PixelJunk Monsters 2. I picked that up. That came out recently, and this is a little game from a developer called Q Games. It's a tower defense game, which may send a lot of you running. I don't like the tower defense genre either. This is the only tower defense game that I've ever gotten into and enjoyed. The first PixelJunk Monsters, I should say. But this is just a really fun, neat little $20 game. David, I recommend you getting the first PixelJunk Monsters. It's available for PS3. It is fantastic.
Sweet.
But yeah, that's a great little game.
Right on. Well, as far as my recos then go, something that you, the dear listeners that have families, you guys can kind of get together and watch. And if you have Netflix, watch the movie Coco. It's a Disney Pixar movie that I don't know when it came out exactly, but it's a movie that is great for the family. I think it has a really strong message about the importance of family and how we need to support one another and love one another and just be there for one another. But
is that the one with the guitar?
Yes, mm-hmm. It's the one with the guitar. It's centered in Hispanic culture around what is it called? Dia de Muertos, like Day of the Dead.
Dia de Muertos. Oh gosh, darn it, words are hard.
I know.
Dia del Muerto.
That's
Day
it.
of the Dead.
So it's centered around that, and so you kind of see what the afterlife looks like, based in that culture. And I think for for us as Christians, it's a great opportunity to, one, spend time together as a family and just have those things where we're making memories together. But also, it's a good springboard to share with your kids just God's word and what it says about the afterlife and the importance of salvation and all of that. So I think it's a good movie for those reasons there. I'm going to throw that out there as a reco. It's available on Netflix, so if you have a Netflix subscription, just hop on there, add it to your queue, and check it out with your family. And as far, this is a reco. This is a book I've been going through for the past month, it feels like, but I've been going through it slowly to kind of take everything in and take in all the statistics and the charts and all that this author's bringing forth. And for the parents, or even other youth pastors, there's this book I want to recommend to you guys. It's called More Than Just the Talk, Becoming Your Kid's Go-To Person About Sex by Jonathan McKee. And I know all the Christian listeners right now are just like freaking out because I said the word sex on the podcast. But this book is so helpful. Explicit tag. I know, right? Hashtag explicit. Throwback to Rugged Marriage. Holla. This is a book that I think every single parent needs to read, because especially if you have trouble talking to your kids about this topic, especially talking about it from a biblical worldview, I think this book is very helpful for that. The statistics in there that Jonathan brings up are going to shock you, are going to surprise you, but in a good way that's going to kind of get you to understand the importance of you teaching your kids about this topic versus them learning about it through Google or Nicki Minaj's lyrics or an ad that pops up when they're checking things out. Or Bill Nye, definitely, if you guys see that Netflix special. It's a very helpful book. I highly recommend it. I know sex is a kind of an awkward, icky topic among Christian circles, but when you think about it, it's a gift from God. It's something that God made, and so what does that mean, and how can we teach our students what that is from a biblical worldview, and so they have a proper biblical worldview on it. So it's a great book. It's very helpful. I'm about 60% of the way through the book, and so far it's just been gold every single chapter. So highly recommend that. We'll put links to everything that we reco'd in the show notes, but David, Micah, again, man, thanks for coming on the show, guys. Appreciate you guys hopping on, helping me talk about this. It's always good to get you guys on. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
It's been a lot of fun, man. I've enjoyed it.
Good. Well, dear listeners, as always, if you'd like to keep up with us, you can follow us on Twitter at TRG Podcast. You can check out the Facebook group. You can head over to the website, thereformedgamers.wordpress.com, to check out articles, reviews, show notes, things of that nature. You can go over to youtube.com/thereformedgamers to get our shows on YouTube. And if you like what we do here at the show, head over to patreon.com/thereformedgamers to consider lending your support to the show, helping us grow a little bit. And helping us just continue do the things we do, like we do reviews and put out content and things of that nature, and try to at least improve the quality. The Patreon hasn't really helped my difficulty with words, but we're getting there. I think this episode was a little bit better than what they've been in a long time in terms of me fumbling through words. And now I'm just rambling. Anyway, dear listeners, thanks again for listening. And until next time, GG and amen.